Am I a hole for telling my neighbor that her husband isn't the catch she thinks he is? Am I a hole for telling my mom she must have no self respect to marry my dad? Am I a hole for asking my sister and brother in law to pay to clean the urine in my truck? So I 28 female recently attended a neighborhood barbecue where this mommy influencer started asking me about my love life in front of other neighbors. Now this woman is 35, is a decade younger than her husband. When I told her that I wasn't interested in getting married or into a committed relationship, she made comments saying that she was worried I would end up a bitter old cat lady. She insinuated that being easy is what's keeping me from finding a life partner, and that if I saw a therapist and sorted out my issues, I would also end up with a catch like her husband. I got really angry and pretty much humiliated her and her husband in front of the other neighbors, saying that her husband isn't much of a catch since he pretty much cheated on his first wife and abandoned his kids from his first marriage, and that their picture perfect Instagram family isn't going to fool me into idealizing them. I said that ending up with a guy like her husband was my worst nightmare, and that her choice in men is unfortunate. She left the barbecue crying and now wants me to apologize to her. Am I the a-hole?
It's petty and harsh, but OP didn't just randomly pick a weakness and pointed it out. Let's set the facts, correct me if I am wrong. OP wanted to enjoy BBQNN, nosy neighbor, wanted to publicly display her influence ability and started to give unsolicited advice. She insulted bitter cat lady, and SL*T shamed her. Even advised therapy to overcome this attitude, rejecting monogamous relationships. And the MOP would be ready for the holy marriage. NN's marriage.she just pointed out that NN is fake. She stayed in the line they were talking about and only responded, "It's like someone telling you to quit smoking or you would die a horrible death, and she feels so much better without cigarettes," and OP would state that her husband smokes like a maniac, so she should cut the crap. It's actually worse. It's more like someone quitting smoking, telling you in front of everyone how terrible you stink because you still smoke, and OP stating to cut the crap cause their husband still smokes like a freight train. It isn't even that NN decided to ask about her love life to begin with, which wasn't any of her damn business, but then she went on to try to shame OP in every way imaginable to boot. I agree with you, 100% NTA. And I don't even like the smoking analogy, though the logic checks out, because smoking is proven to be bad and can seriously sicken and or kill you. OP seems perfectly fine living her life single. It's not like she's going to die of cancer or emphysema because she's not married. There are essentially no risks here, it is zero of NN's business. Also, I don't see how this is an esh situation at all. If some random came up to me at a party and slut-shamed me in front of everyone, you better fucking bet I'm gonna come back one better. Ridiculous when married people with kids think they have cracked the code and are living better than everyone, and therefore must proselytize to all the plebs around them, as if it is the best fit for every human on earth, and they are more enlightened than those who haven't achieved that level yet. In my opinion, OP handled this perfectly. Don't see how she also sucks in this scenario. I agree. I was thinking, don't dish it if you can't take it. Sure, sometimes fighting back could be petty or bringing up unrelated weaknesses, but this was actually completely related and warranted. The lady publicly humiliated her and basically said OP should try harder for a life like hers. OP just pointed out that her life wasn't great at all. And I think neighbor wouldn't have run off crying if she didn't secretly agree with some of OP's points. I think a big part of the neighbor's bad behavior was how she did it in public in front of a group. Remember, she told everyone OP was easy to the point of needing therapy FFS exclamation point exclamation point exclamation point. It's not like she was doing this one-on-one as a deep and meaningful. She was doing it not to help OP or thought it would help OP. She was doing it to make her guru status look better at OP's expense. While some have commented it's shitty of OP, as not everyone may have known about her husband, not everyone may have known OP participates in casual relationships, or at least the neighbor says she does. The neighbor threw out OP's personal life, and while the neighbor's husband's personal life was thrown out there too and he wasn't involved, I think that is that fault of his wife picking these shamings to other people publicly. Wow, Esh. Life isn't about one-upping people's shitty behavior. Both of you acted like children, and I'd recommend being the bigger person and apologizing. It really doesn't matter who started it, this isn't kindergarten. Edit. Refraining from insulting people doesn't make you a doormat as someone suggested. You literally know it doesn't feel good to be insulted, and you were hurt in the moment, so you wanted to hurt her back, right? I get it, and we've all done it, but that doesn't justify it. You absolutely don't have to apologize to her if you don't want to, but I think it would show great empathy and humility. That's all.
Second story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom she must have no self-respect to marry my dad? Some context. My 16 female high school has an annual fall dance. Not last year, for obvious reasons, but it's back on this year with COVID restrictions and of course, and it's been unseasonably warm this season, thanks global warming. So a lot of the dance will be taking place outside. Anyway, the boys are supposed to ask the girls, and yesterday at lunch, a boy asked me, and I agreed to go with him. My dad has always been a traditional kind of guy when it comes to me and my younger sister, 14 female. So last night at dinner, I mentioned that I had a date for a dance, and he made a crack about answering the door with his shotgun. The thing is, I'm pretty sure he would do it. I told him that if he was going to be like that, I just meet up with our friends group at school. He then got very serious and told me in an angry tone that he didn't want me sneaking around with some guy without his knowledge. He asked me what I even know about this guy. He then said he didn't want me to turn into one of those slutty girls who give it all away to the first guy they met and who no self-respect man would ever want to marry. That's when I flipped as a switch. I like to think I'm a pretty good kid. I get good grades. I play volleyball. I help my sister with her homework and help drive her to her soccer practice. I've never had a boyfriend. So being talked to like I was some love-struck idiot who was going to end up pregnant because I'm choosing to go to a dance with a friend really annoyed me. Also, I know a bit about my dad's history. He was in a frat in college and he's told stories to a cousin, a teen male who recently started college at a big state school where frat culture is a big thing. So I told him that, hey, this guy is my friend and he seems nice. But if he turns out to be a dick, I'll figure it out. Me? I only agreed to go to a dance. The last time I checked, going to a dance was not a binding sexual contract. And here's where I may have crossed the line. I told him that I knew he was in a frat in college and I know what goes on in those places. I also know the stories he's told my cousin, so in the heat of that moment, I said something along the lines of, by your own logic, the only slut in the family is you. Then I looked at my mom and said, you must have had no self-respect to have married him. By the looks in their faces, I could tell what I said was hurtful. And then, of course, I get yelled at and probably won't be able to go to the dance at all. But I feel like it's unfair for him to give me a lecture about slutty behavior and self-worth when he's recently been bragging to my male cousin about doing much for his thing when he was just a few years older than me. But maybe I crossed the line trying to prove my point. Amariejo?
NTA. Everything you said to your dad is 100% accurate, and frankly, I would high five my daughter if she said that. I completely understand why you brought your mother into it. She was allowing your father to slut shame you, and that is unacceptable. It sounds like your father is projecting from his past behaviors, and your mother is conditioned to think those things are acceptable. Good on you for standing up for yourself. Classic double standard there. It's perfectly acceptable for a man to behave that way, but not for women. Men doing that is just boys being boys. In his mind it's normal. However, if a woman does the same thing, she's dirty. Never mind that he is doing this with women, assuming he is heterosexual based on the post. So he's fine disrespecting women by using their bodies for his pleasure when it suits him. Yet he also expects women to be held to a higher standard than him. This double standard has always bothered me. Who are men supposed to be playing with, if not this women who aren't allowed to? These type of guys also tend to be rabidly homophobic. Good on OP for calling out his misogyny. Edit. Thank you for the awards. Wasn't expecting that when I went on my anti-misogyny rant while drinking my coffee this morning. Yeah, I can totally relate to this. A while back I went on a Tinder date with a guy, and we were talking about past relationships. I briefly mentioned I had been engaged, but he assaulted me, and I had to get an order of protection. This dude launches into a tirade about how his friend's bitch of a wife lied about friend having physically harmed her, and how BS it was his friend was in trouble. Guy. Your friend was probably totally innocent. Needless to say, there was no second date. I couldn't imagine being so vile of a woman to say that I don't hate men, but I'd do everything in my willpower to have sex with them, even if it means with force, placing value only in what they can do for me, disregarding them entirely when they have something logical to say in terms of standing up for themselves. Stepfather giving me lectures, because I went to a bar well in my 20s, had a few drinks with friends from high school, took bus back to parents' place, but felt sick halfways. Dropped out at mall for and call family to pick my tipsy ass up, got lectured for being responsible. Yeah, a year before that, I refused to get in the car with him because he drank before driving. Was giving me a lecture about being a whiny child and to grow TF up. Can't win with these types if you have a single word against them. Misogyny, homophobia, toxic masculinity. They all seem to stem from self-absorbed selfishness. The moment they are disrupted or challenged, they resort to having rabies pretty much. Spitting stuff, barking around and lashing out with no rationale. I wish they understood that one day, they will be weak, they will need help and support. If you treat your daughters like crap, they might not be there when you get there. Same for any other fears that may disrupt their life plan. As a female in an all-male household, you're correct. I grew up androgynous and partook in many male-dominated activities because it was normal to me, rather than a choice I'd make. As soon as I met my boyfriend, soon-to-be husband, in came the backlash. He was 26 and I was 19. Right after my late HS graduation, I gave birth to our son. We intended to have 2 kids, but with all the trauma from my first from being impure, not married with a kid, a sin to God, a slut, I decided not to. Everybody felt sympathy for my husband. Must be hard to have a kid so young. You're doing so great! ! Meanwhile those same people would disregard me. Well, you kind of asked for it, being disgusting like that. Nobody feels bad for you. I wouldn't even ask for pity or tears, is the worst part. Those people just wanted me to know that people like me are dog shit to society.
Third story. Amariejo for asking my sister and brother-in-law to paint clean the urine in my truck. I, 24 male, have a truck and therefore I am everyone's first contact if they need to move anything. I typically have reasons to get out of it, but this time my sister, 27 female, needed help moving. She and her husband have my nephew too, and are expecting twins next month. So, I bought a house an hour away from their apartment, and they're trying to get settled before the babies are born. I had plans but pushed them back so I could help them make 2 trips to the new house. My sister was packing things at the apartment and came with us on a second trip to the house. About 20 minutes away from the new house, my sister said we needed to pull over so she could use the bathroom. I let her know how close we were so she could hold it for a little longer. Her husband demanded I pull into the nearest gas station, but we were about to pass it anyway, so again, I said she could hold it for a bit. Well, she released a full bladder of piss all over the back of my truck. She couldn't get all cleaned out when we got to the house, so I told her I'd want them to cover the rest of the cleanup. My brother-in-law lost it on me and said they wouldn't pay for anything since I wouldn't pull over. My sister is a grown woman that I've known my whole life. She can hold it for 15 minutes. Now I have a truck full of piss and half my family isn't talking to me. Am I a hole for expecting an adult to be responsible for their own pee?
AITA. AITA. Any grown adult knows that pregnant women, especially 8 months pregnant with twins, absolutely need to use the bathroom when they say they need to. Wow, I'm absolutely shocked at your idiocy and disregard for your sister. And for the record, I'm usually really understanding on these AITA posts, but you have actually gotten me worked up over here. Kudos. I hope OP learns from this because I've had 2 kids, not twins, and my bladder has never been the same. I can hold it, but it tends to go from half full, could maybe should go, to got to go now with no in between most of the time. Thankfully, with the toddler we're trying to potty train, we at least need to stop for that frequently. Edit. Missing words. Seriously, WTF. Plus she's already had a kid before, to my understanding that can cause bladder issues already. I will never forget when my mom and I were standing in the living room, watching a show and she suddenly gasped, and when oh, shit, and peed herself. Poor woman was only 10 feet from the bathroom, but the urge to pee hit her so hard and fast that she didn't have time. You do not tell a pregnant person to hold it. My BFF was pregnant with twins when I got married. She gave me the card that went with her gift and apologized for not having an envelope. Seems she had eaten a bite or two of something and threw up on it on the way to the wedding. I mean, she was only 7 months pregnant and really should have known better than to take 2 bites of something, right? She was a grown-ass adult, after all. Per second. SMH. Yes, AITA, op. Beyond belief! My dad and his twin were both over 9 pounds. They were born in 1933, well before ultrasounds, and their heartbeats were synced, so the doctor didn't know it was twins until the delivery. My grandmother said she found a chaise lounge in her 6th month and never moved after that. Lol. Imagining her having to pee herself because of someone like Op is infuriating.